Hello everyone and welcome to more How Good Are, where today we're going to talk about some overlooked characters. And that's not me just projecting, I mean, these are characters that haven't really been requested by anyone up until now, by only like a single person after all this time. So we have the last natural 4-star character that has Spirit Enhancement that hasn't been requested yet. It's Matsuri. So out of every single Spirit Enhancement character right now, you can all say that Matsuri is the least popular, least desired out of all of them. Why is that? Maybe we can figure that out today, right now. So she is a balanced type, although she's more of a defense type in actual playstyle. She's got 2 Excelus, 2 Charge Disc, which is fine, I guess. We're gonna see it later towards her playstyle, how good that is. Her stats are very defensive. You can see, oh my god, she's supposed to be a balanced type. Those stats are not balanced. Those stats are very heavily in favor of defense, so not balanced at all. What about her personal? Her personal gives darkness to all enemies. It seems like she's trying to disrupt enemies to lessen the damage they deal to your team by making them miss. Okay, let's see what happens if we continue on. We've got attack up on the connect and evade, anti-evade. The anti-evade is not that important, but evade, oh look at that, it's also more like she's trying to reduce the amount of damage that your team takes by making the enemy miss. Seems fine. So overall this connect, I mean, it's got the offensive part, so you can just use it for just a little bit of damage like most connects. The evade, of course, depends on if the character you're connected to is actually getting attacked or not on that turn. But that said, I mean, I guess it's fine, but I'm not too big a fan of stuff that isn't just good immediately and has like asterisks attached to it. Or maybe the Magia is better. If we look at the Magia, it does 1 damage, damages 1 enemy, which now after the Magia buff has happened, has been increased. And once again, if you go back to my older videos, whenever there's a single target Magia, all of those Magias have been buffed now to be 1152% instead. So this is not something that is unique to Matsuri. Every single target Magia now does this kind of damage. So what does it do? It stuns the enemy, it skill seals, and the Magia seals the enemy. First off, this is only really good if you're using it, of course, on a big boss. If you use this on a smaller enemy, well, first off, they have to actually survive the damage, which now is a lot harder, since it does a lot more damage now, since the buff. But even so, I guess if for example, in EX Challenge Quest, we have 3 or so enemies, and you know that one of them is super duper dangerous, you might just throw that Magia on them, and if they survive, hopefully they get stunned or skill sealed or Magia sealed, and they won't be able to help their team much more, which can swing the entire fight in your favor. But you'll probably more so use this against a big boss where you're trying to either stun the boss or skill seal them or Magia seal them. And usually I'm not a big fan of trying to like completely take out an enemy's turn, because whenever you run into an enemy that where it just doesn't land because they're immune or they have resistances to it, you're kind of wasting an effect, you're wasting a Magia on that. But since there's 3 different effects that do that, the chance that this Magia will probably have some sort of impact on the enemy's gameplay is pretty high. Like, there's a pretty high chance that even if the enemy has resistances, either they get stunned, or they get skill sealed and can't use the skill, or if you're, I guess, on a challenge quest that has a really big, there's some challenge quests where you have just a singular magical girl that is going to try and get to Magia. Maybe they get Magia sealed as well, so the chance of that screwing up your opponent in some way is pretty high. But that said, it does nothing else other than trying to screw over a singular opponent. So if you need absolutely anything else from a Magia, this Magia doesn't do it. What about the Doppel? The Doppel does nothing else at all. It just does more damage. Yeah, I guess if you really want the damage, sure, this Doppel is fine. But more so, I guess you would play this to get the stun out, to control enemies, and in that case, just go for the Magia. If you look at the Spirit Enhancement, we see that the Spirit Enhancement has a whole bunch of double nodes. So for example, you get anti-counter and anti-evade, 2 effects that are not that important to have on anyone, but I guess still better than nothing. We also see that she gets a whole bunch of double damage up. Oh my god, so much double damage up. This is actually kind of absurd how much double damage up is in there. And also a 12.5% Magia damage up, so her Doppel actually hits for an absolute crap ton of damage, which is kind of amazing. Wow, crap ton of damage on the Doppel on a tank? That's pretty good, actually. What else do we have? Well, a bunch of regular bonuses and some stuff that isn't that regular at all. We got a double node for critical hit 15% and chance to stun on attack 15%. Just more ways of trying to control your opponents to lessen the damage that your team is going to take. But of course, with it being 15%, as is the case with pretty much any character that has an on-hit ailment like this, if the enemy has just a little bit of status ailment resistance, you're not going to hit this ever. But it's still pretty nice to have, I guess. And most interesting at all, Crisis Guard. You get the defense up at all times and a 40% additional defense up if you're at critical health, which I think is around 20 to 25%. So yeah, that's pretty good. You get a crap ton of defense up if you're at low HP, which makes it actually rather likely that against a lot of enemies, you'll just not die even once you are at low HP. That's really good. And what does the active do? The active is kind of useless. The active gives 15% chance, evade chance to all allies. And before I talk more about this, I also want to mention that her Spirit Enhancement does not have either a Provoke or a Guardian. That's because she's supposed to be Balance type, even though that's kind of a lie, because with everything we've seen so far, she's definitely a defense type in playstyle. But yeah, because she's not defense type in name, she doesn't get the Provoke or Guardian chance over here. But she does give the evade chance to all allies, which is wasted because, guess what? If you're playing a more defensive character, a more tanky character, you're probably playing them alongside more aggressive characters that you want to protect. And guess what? Most aggressive characters in the game, they already have 15% evade chance, and evade chance doesn't stack. Not even multiplicatively, so this is useless. This active literally does nothing on any character that already has passive evade chance, which is a lot of them. That's really bad. However, even with the active being kind of a waste, overall, what can we say about Matsuri? Matsuri, it seems, is actually kind of decent. She's decently tanky herself by being able to utilize a lot of defense with her defense bonuses from Crisis Guard that she gets from her Spirit Enhancement. Her active can blind enemies with darkness. Her Magia can take singular enemies out of the game. Her Connect, and I guess her active as well, if you're using it on specific characters, will make people evade. So she can mitigate the damage that comes towards your team quite a lot. That said, she doesn't really do much else. The damage that she does herself is basically all about actually her doppel. Like, her doppel will hit pretty hard, but apart from that, she doesn't really hit that hard compared to like actual attackers, of course. She doesn't really have that many sort of tricks up her sleeve. She's just like, I'm gonna stand here, hopefully make you deal less damage, and not die myself. And that's sort of the end of what she does. But she's still overall pretty decent. She's hard to kill herself, and if the battle works out in your favor, you will take less damage on your team because of her, and that can be pretty nice. But I guess because she's a forest type who doesn't immediately swing games in any way, I guess she's not that popular. Moving on though, we have another character who not that many people actually look at. It's Haruka. She is a support with two very large Excel discs that we see right here, and also two blast discs, but most so importantly the Excel disc. You see that she has a personal that is actually, if you look at these effects, these look a bit weird. You get a defense up, you get a damage cut, and an additional defense up at critical health. That's basically the game memo. I call it the game memo because this memo is basically about Kokoro confessing her love to Masada, as you can see in the title. But yeah, it also gives damage cut, defense up, and defense up at critical health. It's like the non-MLB effect of this one is exactly the same as the MLB effect of this one, which is good. This is one of the best Tech Memoria in the entire game, if not the best Tech Memoria in the entire game. But it is a 4-star, and this is a 3-star personal, and has basically the same effect, so it's totally fine. This is a totally fine member to have if you play her as a tank. Should you play her as a tank? Well, she's not a defense type. That's weird. Could she also have the wrong type similar to Matsuri? Could she also be a defense type that hides behind another type, in this case support? Let's check it out. If you look at her stats, they are more so in the favor of defense, at least with Spirit Enhancement in there. But since she's still capped at 4-star, we can't quite see her full 5-star stats. But I would assume they're still more balanced across the board with still more defense than anything else. If you look at the connect, it gives attack up, charm to attack, a very basic, very simple connect that is not that great. I mean, charm is rather likely to hit, I mean more so than, for example, a bind or a stun would, but even so, I guess it's fine. It can disrupt the enemy similarly to Matsuri does, where if it lands, especially if it lands on every enemy, or multiple enemies at least, you can kind of disrupt the enemy pretty alright. But you're still just sort of gambling that it actually hits on every single enemy. And for example, if there's 4 enemies and you don't even have a blast anywhere in that connect, you can't even get it on all enemies, so More importantly though, we look at the Magia. The Magia is actually kind of the most important part about this and about this entire unit. It damages one enemy, it's only single target, which is not that great, but gives attack down to that target, damage cut to self, and provoke. And the provoke is the interesting part, because it means that you can actually tank for your team, and it also means that even though this hits a single target and gives attack down to that target, you can still use this against multiple targets. Why? Because if there's multiple targets, you're still getting the damage cut to yourself, and you're getting attacked by every single enemy. So you just need to activate the effects from the Magia, and then it doesn't matter how many enemies there are, even if there's multiple enemies, you'll be able to tank for your team. Just keep in mind that if you play this sort of strategy, that you put Haruka somewhere on the field where no one else gets cleaved by blast hits. For example, if you are in the regular formation, the X formation, the Brave Echelon, you want to put her in the middle, because if she's in the middle and she gets blasted, it doesn't matter if she gets vertical or horizontal blasted, if it's the other way around, vertical or horizontal blasted, she can't cleave any other characters with that blast. And if instead she was on a corner and there were other characters on the corners and she got hit by blast discs, then of course other characters would get hit by those blast discs as well. But if she's in the center, that can't happen. So she can actually tank pretty well. The damage cut is 40% at Magia 5, which is pretty good. So she will actually be able to tank pretty decently well, especially if it's just a single target. Because if it's just a single target, they're getting hit by a 35% attack down for 3 turns. So they also deal a lot less damage to Haruka as well. It makes it even more likely that you're going to take basically no damage, which is pretty good. So by doing that, she's pretty great. She seems like a pretty good character so far. What about her Spirit Enhancement? We see that she also gets a passive chance to provoke, as well as a damage cut and regenerate. Are we sure she's really a support type? She doesn't look like a support type to me, guys. Everything we've seen so far looks like she's supposed to be a defense type, like a tank. But okay, the game says that she's a support type. I guess she's a support type. But yeah, she's kind of a defense type tank at all, because of her Magia. I mean, she's also a rather defensive connect. And I mean, she gets provoke, regenerate, and damage cut. But yeah, and counter even. Who even gets that? Who isn't defense type? But yeah, she gets all of that, which is pretty good. And I guess she also gets skill quicken, because like I said, the game said she's a support type, and supports get skill quicken. She also, as her active, gains chance to charm all enemies and provoke once again to self. So once again, really defensive, more about getting attacked and absorbing some damage for your allies, and sort of disrupting enemies that way. So we see that her playstyle is very similar to that of Matsuri, in that you just use your skills and effects to make sure that the enemy deals less damage to your team in some way, either by getting hit yourself or by just making sure that the enemy sort of misses attacks or counterattack, something like that. So with that in mind, Haruka is actually pretty decent at that, but the one thing holding her back, of course, is that she's not uncapped to 5-star yet. She's not 5-star yet, so that kind of is bad. But apart from that, she would be a decent tank. If she gets uncapped to 5-star, she'll be a decent tank, decent defensive character that you can take a look at to take into your team, and she'll do fine. A character who definitely won't do fine is this one. Oh my god, it's Konomi. It's one of the worst characters in the entire game, if not the worst character in the entire game. Oh, she got 2 Excel discs, 2 blast discs. Her personal is terrible. Why? Well, we'll see in a bit, but this personal is a 13-turn cooldown, monopolized draw. Other characters have 4-turn cooldown, monopolized draw. A lot of charged gorillas have a 4-turn cooldown on monopolized draw. Just 13. Okay. So that person is of course only as good as Konomi. It's like this person would be really good if her connect was really good, or if her stats were really good, or if she was like a gorilla. First off, she's not gorilla, so she's not going to get an Excel combo, she's not going to get a charge combo, so she can't trigger those effects when you get monopolized draw. That sucks. Her stats are god-awful. She doesn't even get to 5,000 attack at 4-star. At 4-star, she has the worst attack in the entire game. Not counting Kodo because she's not 4-star, but at 4-star she has the worst attack in the entire game by a mile. And her defense isn't even that good to make it up. Neither is her HP. Her stats across the board are incredibly goddamn awful, and her attack is unsalvageable. Even if you put like super high attack memorial on this character, she is still gonna do like less damage than like an attacker character, like a 4-star attacker character, natural 4-star that is gonna do at a max SE. So yeah, she doesn't do that at all. But you know what? She's heal type. She's supposed to heal. That said, since she's not that tanky, she is gonna die rather quickly still. Yeah, but maybe her effects are really good, right? Maybe her effects are really good. So her connect does the following. It gives a chance to fog and poison an attack, which are the 2 worst status effects in the entire game. Nothing else. It doesn't heal and it doesn't give attack up, is what I would say if we were talking about old Konomi. New Konomi, I don't know when that happened, but on the Japanese server there was a point, it was like half a year to a year ago, that was actually quite a while ago, she got buffed in a patch that said Konomi is too terrible, we're gonna give her something, and what they did is they gave her a regenerate HP on her connect as well. And you know what, if you're playing her as a healer, as a staller, getting 8% regenerate HP per turn on your connect target is not terrible, can actually be somewhat useful. It's not amazing either, but at least it's better than not having it, right? This actually makes this connect, at least on a heal stalling team, usable. It makes the connect usable on a heal stalling team. Yay. Thank God for that buffer, otherwise she would definitely be, without a doubt, the worst character in the entire game. What else do we have? Her Magia gives HP restore to all allies, and it gives defense up to all allies, which is fine. If you're playing it for the defense up, Sana does way better than that. Sana gives both defense up and damage cut to the entire team, also for 3 turn, way better. And the HP restore is also fine. I mean, overall the Magia is not that bad. If you're playing a pure stalling team, a pure healing stalling team, she's actually not that terrible. Because the HP restore is gonna be exactly what you need, and the defense up is gonna be exactly what you need. But she does nothing else. She does nothing else. She just does exactly that and nothing else. And to be fair, if you even play her on a stalling team, Sana and Kako, if you have both these characters on that team, they're gonna both be more useful in my opinion than Konomi will ever be. So yeah, you can play her on a stalling team, but she will be the weakest link on that stalling team. Even a 1-slot Maruka will do you better. You can take out like a support Maruka and your own Kako, and it's gonna be way better than playing Konomi anywhere on that team. Like, if you say to me, hey, make a team with Konomi, I would probably put her on the team with like Kako and a 1-slot Maruka or whatever, or Kako Sana or whatever. Maybe even Iroha's Kako or whatever would probably be more preferable than Konomi. But yeah, you could put her on that team. You could put her on that team. She would be usable on that team, but she would be the worst unit on that team. Mostly because her stats are kind of terrible. Her stats are actually really, really bad. And she's not uncapped to 5-star yet. Maybe she gets uncapped to 5-star and gets like another effect on her connect. Maybe then she can be kind of alright and she gets another effect on her Magia and maybe even an additional effect on her Doppel as well. Maybe then she can be somewhat alright. But here's the thing. The way it is right now, she's kind of not useful at all. Her personal is a trap because you might think, hey, multiply draw, I can get a free connect out, right? But those 3 discs that you take, those 3 Konomi discs are gonna do no damage at all. They're not gonna trigger either an Excel or a charge combo. And by loading up her connect, I mean, sure, her connect is not the worst, but it's not that amazing either. It's actually one of the not that great connects out there, so it's not even kind of worth to get the connect out. You're probably much better to load up another character's connect. Like, even if another character is at like 0 out of 3 connect crystals or whatever, and you only drew 2 of their discs, probably still worth it to just draw those 2 discs to get them to connect faster than trying to like get a Konomi to connect. So nah, just nah. What about her Spirit Enhancement though? She actually gets defense up over here, which is interesting because that means she doesn't die immediately. She regenerates a bit of HP. She gets chance to fog on attack 15% for 3 turns. That's actually alright. I mean, it's 3 turns. If it was 1 turn, it would be terrible. But for 3 turns, it's actually kind of alright, especially if you have added killers on your team, which you probably won't have if you're playing a stalling team. It also gives stealth aim resistance up here. That's actually quite alright. You start the battle with 30 MP. That's actually quite alright as well. And the active fog all enemies for 1 turn. Okay, it's 45% chance, not that great, and fog itself is a pretty bad effect, but the Spirit Enhancement is actually kind of alright. If this Spirit Enhancement was on a better stalling character, it would be really, really good, but even so, it's actually kind of decent. So overall, I'd say there were a lot of memes about Konomi being the worst character in the game. I don't think she's the worst character anymore, mostly because her connect got buffed. The Spirit Enhancement is actually kind of alright, and on a pure stalling team, you can use her Magia. So I guess she's not the worst character in the game anymore. She actually is kind of usable on a stalling team. But I think when I did Natsuki, I said, you know what, Natsuki is probably the worst character in the game. And now that we've seen the other contender for worst character in the game, Konomi being not quite the worst, yeah, Natsuki is definitely the worst character in the game. Ha! And before people say, what about Kuro though? Yeah, but Kuro is at least useful when she dies. And none of these other characters are. That's all, guys. Enjoy this, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.